Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. In Korea, you can pull up 5 years of your complete medical history with just a few clicks online. Every doctor visit, every prescription, every procedure, all accessible to you, the patient. Today, we're breaking down Korea's Personal Medical Information Access Service, specifically how this system works, who can use it, and what documents you need to access your own healthcare data. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how Korea is leading the way in medical transparency and what it takes to actually get your hands on your medical records. So let's start with the basics. What exactly is this Personal Medical Information Access Service?
It's officially called Tagni Wanani Wanlanna, and it's run by Korea's Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service. Basically, it gives you access to what they call your personal medical information, which includes treatment start dates, your out-of-pocket costs, and billing amounts from any healthcare provider that submitted claims to the national health insurance system.
So this is all the stuff that normally gets buried in insurance paperwork?
Exactly. And the legal foundation is pretty solid. It's based on Korea's National Health Insurance Act, their Personal Information Protection Act, and even their Motor Vehicle Accident Compensation Act. They've basically said, look, this is your data. You should be able to see it.
That's actually pretty progressive. How far back can you go?
Up to 5 years of medical history. So if you're trying to track a chronic condition or need to see patterns in your healthcare, you've got a pretty comprehensive view. But here's the thing, you can only see your own information as the data subject, unless you're applying through a proxy.
Interesting. And there's an important limitation here, right? About how you can use this information.
Yeah, they're very clear about this. The information cannot be used as supporting documentation for your workplace, insurance companies, or other official purposes. It's really just for your own knowledge and understanding of your medical history.
That makes sense. They don't want people gaming the system. So how do you actually access this information?
There are two main ways. If you're an adult accessing your own records, you can do it online through their website. You just click the Medical Information Access menu, agree to personal information collection, verify your identity, and boom, you can view your records.
That sounds almost too easy. What's the catch?
Well, if you can't do it online or you're applying for someone else, you have to visit their main office or branch in person with a bunch of documents. And they process those requests within 10 days. You can call 1644-2000 for guidance.
Okay, so let's talk about those documents. I'm guessing it gets complicated when you're not just accessing your own records?
Oh, it gets very complicated. For adults accessing their own records in person, you need an application form, your ID, and a personal information collection consent form. Pretty straightforward.
But what about minors?
This is where it gets interesting. If you're 14 or older and have your own mobile phone for identity verification, you can actually access your records online. But if you're going in person, you need your ID, a family relationship certificate, legal guardian consent, and the personal information consent form.
Wait, so a 14-year-old can see their own medical records online? That's pretty empowering.
Right? But if you're under 14, you can't apply for your own records at all. Someone has to do it for you.
That makes sense. Now, what about when someone else needs to access your records, like a family member or a representative?
That's where the proxy system kicks in, and honestly, it's pretty comprehensive. For an adult proxy accessing another adult's records, you need an application, the proxy's ID, a power of attorney, and either a seal certificate or personal signature confirmation document from the data subject.
A seal certificate? That sounds very Korean.
Yeah, it's called an Mundi. You can get it from government offices or through their Gov24 online portal. It's basically official proof that the person actually authorized this request. They also accept electronic signature confirmations now.
And what about when a minor needs someone to access their records?
For minors 14 and older, the proxy needs their ID, a family relationship certificate, consent from the data subject, personal information consent, and a power of attorney. But here's the key. If the legal guardian is delegating to someone else, that person needs the guardian's seal certificate too.
So there's like a chain of authorization. What about kids under 14?
For under 14, it's actually simpler in one way. You don't need the data subject's consent because they're considered too young to give it. But you still need the application, proxy ID, family relationship certificate, personal information consent, and power of attorney if the legal guardian is delegating.
This system seems to have thought of everything. But what about really difficult situations, like when someone is unconscious or has died?
They've covered that too. For unconscious patients, and they specifically define this as people who've been medically determined to be brain dead or in a vegetative state, only family members can apply. You need a medical opinion attached to prove the condition.
And for deceased individuals?
Same deal, only family can apply. You need an application, the applicant's ID, and a family relationship certificate. Sometimes they might ask for additional documents like a death certificate if the family relationship certificate doesn't clearly show the death.
The fact that you can go back 5 years into your medical history online is pretty incredible when you think about how many countries still rely on paper records or fragmented systems.
Absolutely. And there are some important details about the documents themselves. Everything except the application form has to be written by the data subject and issued based on their information. All certificates need to show the full resident registration numbers.
Full resident registration numbers? That's their equivalent of social security numbers, right?
Exactly. And all documents have to be issued within 3 months of the application date to be considered valid. They accept resident registration cards, driver's licenses, passports, and other official ID documents as specified in their health insurance regulations.
So they're really serious about verification. What else should people know about the process?
Well, they're clear that these documents are for identity, qualification, and relationship verification. They can request additional documents if needed, like guardian registration certificates for legal guardians, or death certificates when family relationship certificates don't clearly show someone has died.
And the processing time is 10 days maximum?
Right, that's based on Korea's Personal Information Protection Act. The application is processed within 10 days from the date it's received. For online requests, it's obviously much faster.
Now, there's something interesting about how they handle personal identification numbers. Can you explain that?
Yeah, they have a specific notice about processing unique identification information. Under Korea's Personal Information Protection Act, they process resident registration numbers without the data subject's consent for the purpose of identity verification for this medical information access service.
So they're basically saying, we need your social security number to make sure you're really you, and that's legally justified?
Exactly. The legal basis includes the National Health Insurance Act, the Motor Vehicle Accident Compensation Act, and the Personal Information Protection Act. They're being very transparent about why they need this sensitive information.
It's interesting that they specifically mention this information can't be used as evidence for insurance companies or employers. There's clearly been some issues with people trying to misuse this data.
That's a really good point. By explicitly stating that limitation, they're protecting both the system and the patients. It keeps the focus on personal health awareness rather than turning it into a tool for discrimination or fraud.
So what does this whole system tell us about Korea's approach to healthcare transparency?
Korea's approach to medical data access is actually more progressive than many Western countries. They've built transparency into their healthcare system in a way that empowers patients rather than just institutions. You're not fighting with your doctor's office for records. The government is saying this is your right.
And the detailed proxy system they've created shows they're thinking about real-world scenarios, like what happens when someone is unconscious or a minor needs medical records, rather than just the ideal case.
Exactly. They've anticipated edge cases and built solutions for them. The fact that a 14-year-old can access their own records online but needs guardian consent for in-person visits shows they're balancing autonomy with protection.
It's also interesting that they've digitized so much of this process. The online access for eligible people, the electronic signature confirmations, the Gov24 portal integration, they're really embracing digital government services.
Right, and that's part of Korea's broader digital transformation. But they haven't abandoned the in-person option for people who need it or prefer it. It's about choice and accessibility.
The 10-day processing time seems reasonable too. Not instant, but not bureaucratically slow either.
And remember, that's just for the in-person applications. Online access is immediate once you're verified. They're incentivizing the digital route while still providing the traditional option.
What strikes me is how comprehensive the documentation requirements are. It might seem bureaucratic, but it's actually protecting people's medical privacy.
Absolutely. Medical information is incredibly sensitive. The fact that they require seal certificates, family relationship documents, and specific consent forms, that's not red tape, that's security. They're making sure the right people get access to the right information.
And the fact that foreign residents can also get seal certificates and electronic signature confirmations shows they're thinking about their diverse population.
Yeah, they mention that registered foreigners can apply for seal registration and electronic signature confirmations at local community centers. It's inclusive design.
So when you step back from all the documentation and procedures, what's the bigger picture here?
Korea has created a system that treats medical information as something patients own, not something that's done to them. The transparency, the accessibility, the clear legal framework, it's patient-centered healthcare data management.
And it's not just about individual empowerment. When patients can easily access their medical history, they can make better healthcare decisions, catch errors, and be more engaged in their treatment.
Exactly. Imagine being able to walk into any doctor's office with 5 years of your complete medical history. That's better continuity of care, fewer repeated tests, more informed treatment decisions.
The system also seems designed to prevent abuse while maximizing access. The restrictions on using the information for employment or insurance purposes, the detailed verification requirements, they're protecting the integrity of the system.
Right, and that's crucial for public trust. If people thought their medical information could be weaponized against them, they'd be less likely to seek care or be honest with their doctors.
So what can other countries learn from Korea's approach?
That medical transparency doesn't have to be complicated or scary. With the right legal framework, clear procedures, and strong privacy protections, you can give patients control over their own health information. It's about building trust through transparency.
And the technology piece is important too. Korea didn't just digitize a paper process, they redesigned it for the digital age while keeping traditional options available.
Exactly. They're meeting people where they are, whether that's online with mobile verification or in person with paper documents. It's inclusive innovation.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Korea's Personal Medical Information Access Service shows us what's possible when governments prioritize healthcare transparency and patient rights. The next time you're frustrated trying to get your own medical records, remember, in Korea, 5 years of your complete medical history is just a few clicks away.
Listen to me now. I'll show you how.